Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Movies. Today, I wanted to interview a movie producer, an actor, and one of my best friends, Hoyt Richards. Hoyt, thanks for being on Let's Talk Movies. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here, Brian. Very excited.
All right. Well, as I said, I told our audience, Hoyt, I met him on a movie set. What was that movie, Hoyt?
That movie was American High School.
All right. Tell us a little bit about that.
A movie that went down in infamy. Yeah, it was a high school comedy, and it was a very low-budget feature. I had met the two guys one who had written and directed it, and the other one who produced it at AFI when I did one of these kind of AFI shorts. Okay. Did you ever do one of those when you came to LA? Or?
I've never done AFI shorts, but tell people watching, what is AFI? And
so it's the American Film Institute, and basically it's a master's program, and part of your curriculum is the first year you have to do 3 short films, and then the second year you do just 1 short film where you have to raise a budget for it. But the first 3 are kind of, I think they're called cycle films, and they have to use SAG actors. And so if you're in this cluster of actors that I think it was called SAG Foundation that you sign up for, they can only pick from that kind of litter of toys. Okay. And so I had worked with this guy who had directed something similar for his cycle project, and then he got the money together to actually get a feature, and that's how we ended up working together. And your circumstances getting there was even crazier than mine. I mean, I just had, knew him from before, so I didn't have to audition, but you just walked on the set and basically got hired. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, it is a pretty funny story. I'll tell it really quick because I want to keep the focus on you. But the long story short is my friend was an actor in this movie. Shout out to Talon Torriero of Laguna Beach fame.
Hey, Talon.
And he was the lead in the movie, and he said to me one day, Brian, can you drive me to the set of this movie? It's in Palm Springs. I think his car was broke or something. And I drove him and the executive producer to the set of the movie, which was like an hour away. Just talking with the executive producer on the ride there, I guess he took a liking to me, and he's like, hey, you're actually a better fit for this one role in the movie than somebody we've cast. Can you hang around for a month and play this role? And the name of that character was Johnny Awesome, so I was very flattered. Did the movie, met Hoyt, and the rest is history. Hoyt and I actually wrote and produced Dumbbell Special Edition together. So we've got a history there. But I've already talked to them about dumbbells and enough about myself. I want to find out more about you.
Okay.
What is it about movies that you love, and what kind of draws you to watching them, being a part of them? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because what pulls us into this business, right? And for me, I just think it breaks down to storytelling. As I got older, I mean, listen, the idea of being in movies and being a movie star, that's all very enticing, but it doesn't feel very real or tangible usually. So for me, it was this opportunity that kind of came about. I had gone through some personal struggles in my life, and I was really trying to revamp and reassess and decide what I really wanted to do that was important. And having overcome some personal difficulties really taught me that I was living out a story that really fulfilled me going through it. And I thought, well, if I could tell stories like what I just lived through, that would really be interesting to me, because it's kind of like, life patterns, after art, and art patterns after life. And so I was like, maybe I could just use this experiences that I've had to turn myself into a storyteller, because that's, I think, one of the best ways that we communicate with one another. I mean, you come home from work, and whether if you've got a roommate or a girlfriend or whatever, you might say, oh, I'm not gonna believe what happened today, and you tell them a story. That's just what we do. And so I became fascinated by story. I started to read all those screenwriting books out there, and I also felt like as an actor entering into the workspace a little bit later in life, that I was just so infinitely replaceable, and the role of the actor, unfortunately, is very much that if I could generate content, then I'd have a much better chance to maybe drive my career. So that was very appealing to me. And then it just came down to learning to write, and hopefully writing something that people be interested in. And then luckily we met and kind of hit it off, and that was a great birth, because the thing we wrote together was actually the first thing I've ever written that actually got made. Oh. So that was exciting.
Very cool, very cool. And you know, what you said that I totally agree with, and I think viewers can probably agree with, is movies can be therapeutic. You watch a movie, you see a character going through a struggle that you can relate to, and if they can get through it, you know, the movie somehow ends and makes you feel a little bit better, like, okay, if they can get through it, I can get through what I'm going through in life. And I think it's cool what you said, you know, you went through traumatic experiences in your personal life, and you found it healing to, you know, similarly myself, having gone through some traumatic things, being able to write, it's like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm God. I can figure out a way to get these characters out of this predicament, and that feels really good.
No, it's very cathartic. It's very therapeutic, and it's fun. I mean, you know, you've got this blank slate, and you can kind of create a world from this blank slate, and it's really, really fun.
What would you say are some of the movies growing up that you loved and gravitated toward, and you know, I'd love a couple examples from when you were younger, and then maybe some more recent ones that you really.
Well, yeah, when I was younger, I definitely loved like science fiction type stuff. You know, I think Star Wars came out when I was just a teenager, and that completely blew my mind. You know, and it was just because not only was it this great story about this great adventure, but it also had this thing, the Force, and that was really appealing to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think coming from a very Christian background and this idea of something that was incredibly dogmatic, and like you show up at church for you know, and putting your money in a till, and you know, you're given a clean slate, just come back next week, never really sat well with me. And this idea of a Force, which was much more kind of Eastern based in a way, like there's accountability, that whatever you do is going to be, you have some accountability and responsibility for what you've done, and the Force kind of works through you, and it's kind of this universal concept. I loved it. So that was really the thing that kind of opened my mind up, that not only the science fiction part of me, because I grew up watching like Star Trek and all that sort of stuff.
You're a Trekkie. I think people would be surprised to know. You know, fun fact about Hoyt, he was the world's first male supermodel. So we're talking to GQ personified right here, but he's a Trekkie, you know? So what's the symbol for Trekkies?
What? Well, you know, live long.
Is it this?
Yeah, live long and prosper.
There you go. There you go.
I'm Spock.
So did you like the
I can only do it with that hand. I can't do it with this hand. Did you? So luckily Spock does it with the left hand.
Oh, nice. There you go. Do you like the reboots, the ones with Chris Pine?
I do, actually. I'm a huge Chris Pine fan.
Okay.
You know, I think he's a really, really talented actor. I think in many ways he's underrated. I thought in the Wonder Woman movie he was absolutely, you know, stole every scene he was in, and you know, listen, she's a tough act to follow. She's just beautiful, wonderful, endearing kind of. You know, you can't cast earnestness in the sense that you can't teach someone that, but you can cast it. I mean, I should say you can cast earnestness. It's the same thing I found with the kid who's Tom Holland, who's playing Spider-Man. He's got that earnest quality. I mean, that's a really, really valuable trait.
Well, we'll say this. He might have an earnest quality on screen, but I have a friend who's a waiter, and he said Tom Holland.
I thought you were gonna say. I
can't
believe you're gonna go there.
I'm putting it out there. Tom Holland was rude to my friend, the waiter. They were closing. It was 5 minutes before close, and he said, "Sorry, you know, Spider-Man, we're closing in 5 minutes." And Tom Holland, actually said to my friend, "Don't be a coward. You can sit us." He called the waiter a coward, and they sat him upstairs apparently. I do think he's a good actor, and I do love those movies, but that hurt my heart a little to hear that Spidey was so rude to my buddy.
I think it is disappointing sometimes. That's why I think it's better to just keep the fantasy of what we think.
Yeah, don't tell me anything about anybody.
I don't want to know about them in real life. Let me maintain the fantasy of the image they have up there on the screen. And I think that's why it's smart for a lot of actors to not spend too much time in the media, because I think you do have a lot of mystique by not knowing, and when you put yourself out there too much, there's haters everywhere. So you make a stand, people are going to make you pay for it.
Well, to keep it in the superhero realm, there is breaking news. I don't know if you've heard, but they've canceled Wonder Woman 3.
Yes, I have heard this.
Yeah,
and actually the guy who is teaming up with James Gunn I went to college with.
Oh, really?
Peter
To lead
Safran.
the DC universe?
Yeah, I know Peter Safran. I mean, he was actually, when I was just an up and coming, I was just modeling, and they were trying to get me into the acting thing. And I came out here to LA. Peter Safran was working for one of the big agencies, I think it was UTA or whatever, and they were wanting to represent me. And he said, "Can I hip pocket you?" And so he tried to bring me in on a couple of different things. But
for people that don't know, hip pocketing is when an agent at a big agency represents you kind of under the table, and then if you start booking work, then the whole agency can sign you and get on board.
That's right. Good. Thank you for clarifying that. Because
not everybody's as hip
not
as
everybody
you.
knows.
The lingo over here.
It's true.
It's in the biz guy.
But and then he managed for a while, and he managed my friend Jaimin Hunsu.
Oh, he's in all the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
And
So, but as he started moving away from management into production, and he's a great example. He did a lot of bad movies at first, like some really schlocky kind of horror stuff and things that kind of dumb comedies. And he's moved his way up, and now he's running DC at Warner Brothers. So
there you go.
It just goes to show you perseverance, tenacity, key factors to succeed.
You never know who might be the sound guy holding the boom on one movie, might be directing the next trilogy, next moment. So be nice to everybody on set, not just because they might be able to help you out in the future, but just be a good person, people, right?
Exactly. I mean, you see it a lot now. I mean, you have these guys who are stunt coordinators end up becoming directors.
Because the stunts and that part of an action movie is so vital and important. You get that part wrong, you might as well not make the movie.
And if you got that part right, the movie's in a great place already. It's going in.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about them canceling Wonder Woman 3? I mean, I personally didn't love the second one.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I did not love. I mean, I think they've got a great Wonder Woman. I think she's
great. Yeah,
she's terrific. I was not thrilled about the second one either. So I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a lot of politics that go on to these things. I think anytime someone takes over, they want to put their stamp on it.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to try to move away from all the Zack Snyder type stuff.
But what's confusing is, it was just trending and Henry Cavill announced he was back for Man of Steel 2, and now they're saying that's in jeopardy as well.
Well, and they've already canceled Batgirl.
Yeah, that wasn't that like a $30 million movie?
They already shot it and just decided to can it. They can't even show it sometime down the road. They had to just literally burn it.
I heard that. Could you imagine if you got cast as like Batgirl and you're in that movie, you're like, oh my God, I'm in the DC universe. And then just like, no, done.
And nothing you did wrong.
Yeah. And she got a lot of flack for that probably. Like, oh, it probably wasn't very good. And but apparently it wasn't her. It was just they're going in a new direction. Yeah. Warner Brothers, for those that don't know, they hired all new leaders. And the reason they're scrapping a lot of these movies is because they're trying to do what Marvel has done and have, like a 10-year slate of films that all kind of go with each other than the Joker.
Right. And I mean, and what Marvel did is miraculous. I mean, I don't know if Marvel can where they're going now. I think the universe has gotten so massive.
Yeah.
Now. I think it's been really challenging, but to have literally, I think, I don't know, 23 movies that all interconnected the way they did.
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
When that all came together at Avengers Endgame and what was the other one? It's Avengers Endgame and Avengers Age of Ultron?
No, Endgame was as Infinity War.
Oh, right.
And then it was Endgame.
Yeah, I loved both of those movies.
And it was just so emotionally satisfying. I mean, I never watched that Game of Thrones, but people told me that the ending of that was not very satisfying.
Oh, I just got a haircut, by the way, for you guys to look good on. I mean, I'm interviewing a supermodel. I gotta try and do something here. And the guy was telling me what happens. I won't say it because if you haven't watched it, by the way, if you haven't watched it yet, let's go. Okay, it's been out plenty long. But they
I'm one of those guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have not ever.
Well, they apparently murder a beloved character at the end, and people just were like so livid and mad. Unlike when they killed Iron Man, and again, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but this is like, you got to catch up here. This is old news.
Yeah.
But I felt like, as bummed as I was, but it just made the movie so amazing the way that they you know.
And I think for the arc of his character, to have the ultimate self-sacrifice, what is that? Your life.
Yeah.
You know,
And you know, with time travel, and they can bring him, they'll figure out a way to bring him back, right?
No, I think I saw him on Joe Rogan interviewing Robert Downey Jr. And he's like, man, I can see it right now. They get in the time machine and they bring back Tony Stark. He goes, I'm in there with the popcorn already doing it. He goes, I see it, man. I can't wait.
I mean,
they just got to pick their time and place to do it. But there'll be a point.
There's been a lot of hater-isms on the Marvel Universe. You know,
really?
Scorsese. Think Quentin Tarantino was kind of complaining about it a little. What do you think about, you know, the age of cinema? And I know you love these movies, but do you feel like we're missing out on some more original stuff?
Well, I think the movie business it's transforming right now in front of our eyes. So it's kind of the Wild West. And if you look at the movie business in tiers, I would say the top tier, which are the blockbuster type movie, are the only ones that are really legitimately smart to put in a theater these days. I think as people's home entertainment systems have improved, as streaming's improved, all these things, it's now so easy to do it at home.
You can get a 65-inch screen for like $300, which is insane.
Now it's when what I find though, it's such a switch that goes off in my head when I do that, because when I'm in the movie theater, I'm in a semi-trance. And I actually like that. And I like the group experience. I like kind of feeding off the energy in the room. But when you're at home, you can click it and go do, I forgot to do this. And
it's just on your phone.
Exactly.
You know?
It's just disruptive. It's not the same thing. So as a storyteller and a filmmaker, I want to have that experience. And the truth is, with the type of movies that I'm making right now, I just probably won't get that, thing. Other than that, maybe a film festival.
I want to get to what you're working on right now, but before I go there, have you experienced the 4D cinema experience?
The 4D, where they spray water in your face?
Spray water, the seats move, there's vibration, there's smells.
I did it one time, and I found it distracting.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I saw Spider-Man No Way Home with that.
Okay.
And I loved it. It made the movie so much more interesting.
Really?
And I didn't know what I was in store for. Somebody took me.
Okay.
I'm like, what's 4D? And they're like, just wait. I think the first time my seat moved, I was like, what's happening? Who is that?
It would be good for like Ghostbusters or something like that.
I'm telling you, Spider-Man No Way Home, there's a scene in that movie where he's in a field of flowers, and all of a sudden the whole theater smelled like flowers. It was super cool.
All right, so now to me what would work really well for this would be the upcoming movie Avatar: The Way of the Water.
That's what I want to talk to you
That would be, so I'm curious, like, are you interested in that movie? Because
oh my God, I can't wait.
I mean, they shot 4 movies back to back to back to back. I mean,
He invented new cameras.
Yeah.
Just new technology. Apparently, the movie. Have you seen some of the first?
No, I haven't.
The reviews are coming in already. They're calling it a masterpiece. They're saying it's visually the most breathtaking thing you'll ever see. It's so technologically advanced. And I even saw an interesting thing on the internet. A professional visual effects person said he took a 3-second clip from Avatar, and he said that probably cost $100,000 for the CGI in that, because every pixel was CGI of it, and the realism was through the roof. Because water is one of the hardest things to do in CGI, and the whole movie's water, and that's apparently this movie needs to be the 3rd highest grossing movie of all time just to break even.
Wow. Well, if you're gonna stack your deck anywhere, do it for James Cameron. I've actually been his stand-in on a couple commercials.
Oh, really?
So I have met James Cameron. Couldn't be a nicer guy, class act, very friendly. You hear stories about him.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting to meet him person to person. First of all, it was this big Rolex commercial, and they had the DP who had done. Was it Gravity? The thing with Sandra Bullock. One of the top DPs. So they start talking cameras, and they might have been speaking Greek. I mean, they're so technologically advanced. Those guys, the way they were talking back and forth. But just even his whole team around him. I got to see the studio where they was shooting some of the movie, and couldn't take photos anywhere. It's all like like you say, he creates new technology. I mean, he created a new camera for Titanic that could go underwater.
I think he's created a new camera for every film he's done.
Yeah,
it's kind of mind-boggling.
I mean, he has like some part of the brain that he accesses that's from another universe, but he is, yeah. I mean, He's a one of a kind, boy.
So is Avatar what you're most excited about? Is there anything else that's on your radar that you're looking forward to movie-wise?
Yeah, I probably would say Avatar I'm most curious about because of all the reasons you just said. The way it's considered to be very new and fresh and original. And I do remember watching the first Avatar in 3D, and that was the only time I've seen a 3D movie where I'm like, this is how 3D should actually be.
And there was never like anything like all the 3D after that was kind of like a disappointment.
Was terrible.
The only thing that actually, ironically, I thought was good was Piranha 3D and Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas.
Oh, because they did it for humor, right?
It was humor, but I also just thought the 3D was good.
Yeah.
Like so many other movies, I'm like, it's like not.
Well, a lot of times they would do it afterwards, and it just it wasn't.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I think probably there haven't been a lot of movies this year that really blew me away. I would say Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I loved.
I haven't seen that.
Oh my God, you got to see that, Brian.
Yeah.
Right. I think that movie is. You talk about original, and you talk about even being a Marvel fan, the way they look at kind of the multiverse and that all that timeline stuff.
I gotta watch it.
That's it's a better even take on that than even the Marvel thing.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's really really fascinating.
Maybe I'll watch that tonight.
Yeah,
okay?
I recommend it. And then the other movie I was really blown away by was Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, such a good movie.
Right?
Right?
I mean, I would actually go on record to say it's better than the original.
I was actually in acting class with
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell.
And I know him
what's
from
his
you.
name in the movie again? The
Hangman, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I bumped into him down at Irwan, just around the corner from where we are right now, maybe 2 years ago, and he was jacked up, and I'm like, dude.
It's been surreal to watch his star rise. I mean, we were in acting class together, and just a great guy.
Yeah,
I couldn't be happier.
He's Texas
Austin,
guy, right?
Just one of the nicest guys ever.
Really
deserves all the success in the world.
Good.
Glenn, if you're watching this, which I know you're not because you're on a movie set somewhere, filming huge movies.
We're fans,
Yeah, we're fans of yours, and we want you to keep killing it. So, but yeah, such a good movie, so emotionally satisfying.
Completely, because the screenwriter in me, and again, I'm going to say some things if you guys haven't seen the movie, but
spoiler alert!
Yeah,
right? Cover your ears if you haven't seen it.
But when it gets into that last act where Maverick's plane crashes and then Goose, what's his? It's not Goose. It's,
Miles Teller's character. I forget the character's name.
Yeah, I can't remember either. But Goose's son crashes too, and I'm like, okay, that's a little contrived, right? But that's emotionally where the story wanted to go. You wanted to see them do something together,
absolutely,
and it really paid off. And so, even though it was stretching the lines of belief, it was emotionally exactly where it wanted to go, and it just gave.
See, I didn't question it. Like I was like, hey, they both crash, like.
And they both get away from all the bad guys, and they sneak in.
Movie, but that movie is so good. It's so gratifying. The end, and what makes it so good is, and I touched upon this a little bit on episode 1, is you can't just have people doing things because the villain's bad because he's the villain. Like I felt like all the characters' motivations were so like the fact that Tom Cruise was trying to protect that character, but him trying to protect him made the other guy resent him, but he didn't realize he made a promise to his mother and all this stuff. You're just sitting there going, man, these conflicts are so good.
So good. And that scene between him and Val Kilmer is one of the great movie scenes ever done.
Yes.
I mean,
sad what's
I have
happened
never
to Val
seen
Kilmer.
Tom Cruise that vulnerable in a scene before.
I think probably in real life he was very emotional because his friend can't even speak. And I mean, what is going on with Val Kilmer? He has throat cancer?
Throat cancer, as far as I know. That scene with Val Kilmer is just, I mean, it's just so emotionally powerful, but it's also so, and we know what Val Kilmer's situation is, so he can't really talk. But to use that silence the way they did so effectively.
One of the best movies of the year.
Yeah, it was so great. I mean, it really, it was great on so many levels. And, and it's one of those movies that it just felt good to go back to the movies again. I mean, after COVID, and they really resisted, the temptation to put it into streaming, and they were very committed. I know Tom Cruise has said, it's a movie made for the movie theater. the flight footage. I don't know. They'll probably never make
the
a movie
opening
like that
scene
again.
where he's
Yeah.
going to Mach, what is it, 12 or something?
Mach 10.
Mach 10 was just such a badass opening scene.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I was never a big fan of Top Gun, not necessarily because I didn't like the movie. I think I was just young and, I just don't remember. So when I went into this movie, I was like, I don't know, Tom Cruise, the 80s, 90s, whatever it is. And little did I realize it'd be like one of my top movies of the year.
Yeah.
That and Barbarian, which I know you didn't like. So
Well, I didn't hate it though.
Okay.
Let me get clear on that. I think I loved the whole setup. I loved the transition. We talked about that on the phone. When the one character's in the worst part of the story, and then it cuts immediately to a whole new storyline out in California, sunny. You're like, what? I loved that shocking transition and just intriguing. How are these two things going to collide? And then they paid it off. Making it collide is just that type of horror kind of creepy thing is not really my thing. I like the thriller part, but actual kind of seeing people beaten and kind of bloody, it's not really my thing.
So what is your thing? Tell everybody watching, like, what are you working on now? What are some of the things
I've got 2 scripts I'm really excited about. I've got a 3rd script I've just started, not started, it's hopefully finishing, which is a thriller. But we were talking about storytelling, and I like stories where the protagonist is facing their inner inner antagonist. I think, and that comes from what I lived through in my own life. Like, I think we all have demons we face, and I really love the stories where you have to overcome and face your own demons to become a better version of yourself. So I'm really drawn towards transformational stories. And listen, sometimes an antagonist can drive someone to become a better version, so that also works. But for me personally, the stuff I tend to write is someone kind of overcoming their demons, which is kind of how we wrote Dumbbells, it was really that. And we were both catalysts to each other's characters to kind of overcoming those things, but each one of us had to face our own stuff.
Yeah, there's no real antagonist in that movie other than our own demons.
Right. My character gets painted initially as the antagonist,
exactly.
but that was kind of some clever screenwriting by us to say, hey, that's
currently available on Amazon if you guys want to check it out.
Yeah, please check it out. Absolutely. So that type of thing is what I'm drawn towards.
And you're working on a documentary now as well, right?
I am. I can't talk about it too much because it's all kind of under rest. But yeah, I've looking into doing documentaries and doc series. I think has changed how you tell stories in general. Documentary used to only be something that you would see in an hour, or maybe as a feature, an hour and a half, 2 hours. But it was this type of thing, a lot of talking heads, and it reminded me always of like stuff I used to watch at school and in classes where someone's droning on and you fall asleep. Now documentaries have just exploded because with drone photography, with just the way the technology has increased, you can make them very cinematic now. You can do recreations, you can add it. So we're doing all sorts of stuff like that, recreations, or finding all sorts of archival things, and you just get more and more clever in how to tell these stories, and it's an exciting time. I would also say it's we're in the golden age of television right now, right? I think once you relinquished the format from commercials, you opened up a whole new way of storytelling on television, because the commercial, and they teach you this, because I remember when I looked into doing a television show, they call them act outs, meaning at each time you're making a commercial break, that is an act out, and you need to have some form of a cliffhanger to make sure the person comes back after they go get some snacks, or they go to the bathroom, come back after the commercial to get
to
watch
keep
a
them interested.
So in an hour you have like 5 or 6 act outs. That forces some really artificial storytelling, because not every story needs to have those cliffhangers 5-6 times within the first 60 pages.
Yeah.
So I think once that was eliminated, then you all of a sudden had this new form and format that you could just kind of start telling stories just based on how the story really compelled it to be, but knowing you had maybe a numerical limitation of like each episode's got to be 50 to 60 minutes. Like I think you kind of see that usually is what it is if it's going to be a number of like a 1 hour drama. But they'll have some episodes 42 minutes. They'll have some like there's no rhyme or reason anymore. I was just watching the one on Disney Plus, and it's like, oh, it was Andor, which I'm really enjoying, actually.
Oh,
Have you
what's
watched
Andor?
it? Andor is part of Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
The Star Wars saga. It's based on the storyline of Rogue One, which is one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Yeah, such a great Star
even though
Wars
it's
movie.
Not even in the main storyline, it's just an ancillary.
You want to talk
one.
about getting emotional at the end of the movie. You're like, oh my gosh, they're about to all sacrifice themselves.
And the thing is, it going in, and that they really make it work. I mean, I thought, and that guy who did that, I don't know if you know much about that director, Gareth, what's his last name? I can't think of it now. But that was his third movie. He did his first movie was like a monster movie that, because he knows
he did all the CGI, right? So he shot it for nothing.
Shot it for nothing. Did everything in his room up in London. Created this whole movie that looks like it's made for millions. I think the whole budget was maybe 50, 60 grand.
Wow, unbelievable.
And based on that one movie, they gave him Godzilla, which was a $180 million budget. And then his third movie was Star Wars. And it's one of the best Star Wars they've done. When you look at how many have been kind of lukewarm, that one actually, many people.
The Han Solo one was the biggest misfire.
Which I actually didn't mind that one too much.
I think people were getting Star Wars fatigue. That's when they were releasing a new Star Wars every December. Yeah. And they just, all of those movies, even when I was, and I love the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but they're basically Star Wars remixed. But I think a lot funnier and with really good music. But I think with all of these movies, I went and saw Black Adam, and I'm just like, this feels like the Avengers, but the poor man's version.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I do hope we get a little bit more original movies. That's kind of why I liked Barbarian so much. I am getting a little fatigued with all these, and I love superhero movies. I love Star Wars, but
you love drawing them.
I love drawing them, but I am missing. I love seeing movies about just normal, everyday people. A guy trying to get over a divorce, or a girl trying to move up the corporate ladder. So since this is the Let's Talk Movies podcast, I want to know favorite movie all time. What is it?
Oh,
I know you said Star Trek and Star Wars were big influences.
Yeah,
but if you had it, I know that's such a hard question to ask people.
I think it has to be It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, okay.
Because that movie, I mean, it's so good when you think that it comes at you every year, because I don't know the whole story behind it. Like it became public domain. They never kept the copyright. That's why it gets aired all over Christmas, because no one has to pay for it.
Oh, I didn't know that. So
there
you go. Now you guys know this Christmas when you're seeing that, just know they ain't getting paid for it.
Yeah, no one in there. It's
not a wonderful paycheck.
Yeah, it's not. And it's kind of like The Hills.
Yeah. I don't get paid. When you see The Hills, I ain't getting nothing, just so you know.
So, but that film just holds up every time. And I think that's a special sauce that you can't really compare many movies to. And also knowing when it first came out, it was a flop.
Was it really?
Oh, completely tanked.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a fascinating film because, maybe you just say, and again, I don't know what was going on exactly at that time in the world, but maybe people just weren't ready to hear that type of story. But then in retrospect, now we realize it's just such a story that is so powerful and reflective.
Wow.
And allows you, I think it just allows you, what I look at great writing is, it's not something that I as the writer am saying, oh, look at this great story I've written and I want you to give me accolades. If I write something that I think is really, really provocative, I'm hoping that you self-reflect based on it. So I'm hoping this story that you see yourself in it, then I feel like I've really achieved something.
Nice.
And I think It's a Wonderful Life really allows us all to kind of self-reflect and say, just be grateful for the life we have, and this idea that chasing the greener pasture is probably never going to pay off. And I think that's a very, very powerful message.
Well, I think that's a wonderful message to go out on.
I
really appreciate you being on the show and talking movies with me.
I hope I can come back. I enjoyed it.
We'll definitely have you back when you can talk about your documentary or movies, whatever you're working on. I know you're always a very busy guy, but thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely, brother.
And you were great, and it's a wonderful life.
It is a wonderful life.